They came to me because they said I was a hard worker, that I was dedicated and thorough, and I got the job done. And they said it was good that I was discreet, and that I knew how to keep a secret. They told me that they had made contact with extraterrestrial beings, but that they had kinda messed up, and apparently the aliens got pretty angry. The good news, they said, was that it would take 17 years for the missile to even reach Earth, so, no worries. They set me up in a small room with a huge computer, said I could eat and drink as much as I wanted. It was all in the house as long as I got the job done, and that I remained thorough and discreet and knew how to keep a secret. At dinner, my wife could sense something was off, but I think she blamed it on her catfish, which, to be fair, was pretty nasty. They wanted me to get it all down on paper, some sort of definitive record of man's existence on Earth before it all went. They said I wouldn't have to worry about anything else for 17 years. They even assured me a spot on the International Space Station, which apparently would be able to support 400 inhabitants for at least 36 months. They told me to focus on names and faces and people, and that history was made by individuals rather than dates and events. In the long run, they asked, who are the people that should be remembered? The first names I began to type surprised even myself: Hitler, Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt. The big four from an old war, followed by other US presidents and the founding fathers, and so on and so forth down a rabbit hole of history. Down past Martin Luther and Dr. King and Malcolm X and the Beatles. Past Cleopatra and Tutankhamun, and Socrates and Plato and Camus and Freud, and Ford, and Fonda. After 13 years, the hard drive sputters and whirs and tells me it's full. They assure me that's all the space station has room for, and the deleting game begins. The rephrasing game. The condensing game. Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman get grouped as one person. Castro and Mao get to stay, but Marx is out. Orson Welles has his entire career reduced to American director who made Citizen Kane. All I write about Marie Curie and Joan of Arc was how they died, and the biggest entry ends up being for Jesus Christ, even though I mentioned twice the possibility that he may never even have existed. And every night I go home and I stare my wife in the face, and she asks me, what's wrong? And I say, nothing, while I try to think of any names I might have forgotten, and she throws away another catfish. And that's when I remember, Cat Stevens. But then I realize he's probably not that important. At least, not important enough to overwrite Nino Aquino, or Eugene Debs, or Louis Pasteur. And as I slowly start to come to terms with a society in which no one remembers Cat Stevens, the weight of all those other forgotten souls suddenly hits me. And I think about all the lives that will never be passed down to the future generations of space children. They'll never even know how Tiradentes fought and died for Brazilian independence, how his body was torn to pieces and his head was placed on a stake, a document written in his blood denouncing him for crimes against the crown. They'll never hear that story, and even if they do, they'll have more important things to worry about. Day-to-day space station things like, what's the quickest way to get to holodeck B, or when will the tractor beam be up and running? Their tiny little human brains will never even have the memory storage to remember us. The people at the turn of the millennium. Like the Turkish man in the cafeteria that always gave me a little extra slop. Or the cop on La Brea who was the only crossing guard in the county to never cause an accident. Or my wife, who for 17 years kept trying to perfect her catfish, day after day, while her husband didn't say much more than nothing. Is it up to me to keep their memory alive? Stuck in a space station for 36 months, telling every space child that will listen all about the slop and the crossing guard and my wife and the catfish? And who will keep my memory alive? Who will remember me? When the space station crashes down to Earth and there's no one around? Who will remember all this work that I've done for the past 17 years? All the work that I've done before this? All the good days I've had and the bad days I've suffered through? All the times my dad was proud of me and all the times my mom made me feel better? All the crushes I had and all the girls I kissed? All the teachers I ever had and all the classes I had to take? All the lessons I had to learn? All those notes I ever took? All those memories and all those moments? Just floating around on an empty radioactive Earth. Aren't you going to be late for work, she says. The ship is leaving at noon, but she has no idea. She doesn't even know about the missile. And I can't bear to tell her. And I realize I can't bear to leave her. Yes, I say. I'm gonna be late, it's fine. No one will miss me. And I take a bite out of her breakfast catfish. And it tastes like the most delicious thing I've ever had.